Tony, what's going on, man? How are you?
Aloha. Good to see you, Sean.
Aloha. Guys, I met Tony in Hawaii. I was living in Hawaii for the winter, 4 or 5 months with Emma, and it was actually funny. Do you remember how we met, Tony?
I know where we were, but I don't know the
Yeah.
specifics. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it was funny to me because I was in the gym. It was early. It was 5 a.m. on a Tuesday. I'm sure it was a Tuesday. And um, most people are in a rush 5 a.m. on Tuesday to a point right there. Wake up, I'm getting after it.
Oh
That was
yeah.
definitely me. I was a little busier then. And I saw you in the corner of the Club Kona. Shout out the Club Kona. And I saw you holding a stretch. You're doing, you're stretching your hamstrings, you're sitting down, and you looked like calm, composed, like you were just happy to be there stretching. I'm like, cool. Most guys, I don't stretch enough, even though we know
hmm
hamstrings probably the best thing to stretch to relieve back pain. So I hit a set of pull-ups and I look over and you were still stretching. I superset. I went over to go do biceps, came back. You were just holding that stretch, clearly intentional. And in my brain, I thought like, this guy's not just like stretching a warm up. He's working on something, and you
Mm-hmm.
seem so composed. I don't know what it was. I was like, hey man, what's up? And I just started
hmm
chatting with you. And
hmm
then I realized, the fact that at 5 a.m. you not only were so composed doing that, like you just like openly, gave me your focus and attention. I enjoyed that interaction. So that's how we
Yeah.
met and we've been chatting since.
Yeah. Yeah. I could really feel your attention there too. So it definitely was reciprocal. So
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Dude, tell me about this painting or this visual behind you. I love it.
yeah. So my wife Amber Bonnici and I have a company called Woman Unleashed. And part of Woman Unleashed is creating and painting your self
Hmm.
portrait of your queen or your divine self.
Oh, that's
Excuse me.
awesome.
And so this is one of those processes, like, because you can paint over and over a portrait of yourself and new learnings and teachings in the process come out. So we have a community of about 50,000 women, and it's just been it's about last 7 years that we've been embarked on it. She's the CEO of the company, so she teaches, and we have a great team of women that support it. And
That's so
so,
cool.
Woman Unleashed, singular,
Yeah,
yeah, woman. So.
dude. Yeah. I hope people check that out. I want to hear a little bit about I mean the company for sure, but the exercise of this painting. I mean, you use some specific words there, kind of like your divine, version of yourself. What
Yep.
do you know? I'm sure you do. You kind of know like what's the background behind that? What's the intention of it?
Yeah. So each painting is consists of different layers, and so the first layer may have maybe some of your negative beliefs
Hmm.
written on this painting,
Mm.
and so you put that your negative beliefs, and so maybe it's I'm not good enough, I don't have value, and I'm I'm never enough. How about
Yeah.
those three for me, right? And
Yeah.
then so you see them on there and you're experiencing what you're seeing of your beliefs being on canvas.
Yeah.
And then you cover the whole entire canvas with a color. And then maybe now let's bring out your positive beliefs and let's start to look at those. And then that may bring out different phrases. I am powerful. I am beautiful. I am
Yeah.
love. And paint those on there and see those on there. And then cover them up. Now taking both of those, like a dark and a light, and
Hmm.
what kind of symbol or shapes would that take on that may like represent both those qualities in all their glory?
Mm.
And then so you start to paint shapes. So you say
Yeah.
maybe it might be a triangle. I had some six. I've done this process in Italy with one of Amber's teachers. So
Awesome.
it's so rad. It's totally
Yeah.
rad, and it's hard too. I mean, some of it's like some deep, like therapeutic work to paint yourself and an image of what you think you look like, it was very
Yeah.
therapeutic. So
I mean, even I'm thinking about the start. I didn't think this is how we were going to start, on the a million other things that we generally chat about, but this is what I love about chatting with you. Um, I'm thinking about, so Dr. Joe Dispenza, he has a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself that I just read. It is a great book. It's a hefty book. It's all about changing your thought patterns and creating that's a word we're going to dive into later. But one of the first things was talking about, doing some deep work to understand where you need to work. How are you viewing yourself? For example, I started in kind of the corporate space. For those that don't know, I worked for Milwaukee Tool, and then I started my own company. And good news, I started picking up a bunch of clients. Bad news, I was working 12 hours a day, and I was the one responsible, not taking as much vacation or downtime as we all know is important. And I realized I became addicted to that feeling, and I felt guilty. Like basically, besides family and like exercise, I would feel guilty doing other things. I'm like, you know, I have a business. I could be delivering better. Like I never was giving the absolute 100% best result possible to the client because that's impossible. So I could always be doing more for my client. I could always be trying to bring in new, things business, and I enjoyed it, but I felt guilty. So I found that initially is difficult in itself. I mean, and then like you were saying, coming up with a few and kind of like painting it, that's got to be powerful.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been on that work or on that journey of inner work for about in depth for about 20 years. And
Yeah.
so, and then to step out and say, oh, we went to Florence, Italy, and I painted my self portrait. And when I laid there at nighttime and I couldn't go to sleep and I was processing, like my brain was just like, what the fuck are you, sorry, but what are you looking at? What are you actually
Yeah.
doing right now in this process? And I had a few sleepless nights in the process of learning new things about myself.
Hmm. You hit on something pretty interesting there. We're going to hop right into your 20 years of self work. But before we do, you said a couple sleepless nights. I don't know if it's a shock to anyone to hear that most people have sleep problems and that most of those problems come from, psychological things. But
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy how big, sleep medication is. People are doing all these things. How many apps are there to tell sleep stories and things? And, people keep the TV on all night to help them sleep, even though that doesn't help them sleep, blue light and
Mm-hmm.
noise. It's so interesting. I bet after you went through that work, had those, sleepless nights, long days, I bet now you sleep pretty well, I would assume. And especially going to bed, right? I think that's the hardest part is quieting the brain to go to sleep.
Mm, yeah. I mean, for me, it comes in waves of that.
Mm,
I'm constantly looking and doing the inner work. So it'll bring up things for myself that create those sleepless nights sometimes.
yeah.
And I challenge myself regularly outside of my like physically, spiritually, relationships and work and legacy work. I challenge myself in those areas, and that's one of the biggest things that will bring up limiting beliefs and all the old stories that I have created about myself from when I was
Yeah.
younger
It,
to hold
it,
me back.
it is true. Challenging yourself does bring that stuff up because it makes us all, vulnerable and humble. I'll say this thing right here. I have a little notepad that says distractions at the top. This
I
is,
remember.
yeah, I live with this thing. So one of the things that this is for is whether I'm in a meeting, whether I'm typing an email, working on a project, reading, I have this generally with my in my pocket, and anything that comes up, I want to give Tony a call. I just write that right on here. And then, but before I go to sleep, I try to do a brain dump. So I write absolutely anything, even if it's nonsense, you could scratch it out in the morning. Get it out on paper, kind of like frees me up. That helps
Nice.
me, rest. But it's funny. You mentioned challenging yourself as a way to bring up, some things to work with yourself. And I found physically
Yeah.
that was I love the gym. I love playing sports, but I realized I always was in my zone, right? I'd play sports and work out things I was good at. And when I got into ultra running, I ran my first 50 miler and I quit. I quit at mile 28, dude. My right foot hurt so badly. From mile 15 on, by mile 28, we ran right by the start line, finish line, because it was like a little loop. I was like, I'm done. First time I quit anything physically, like quit, not lost, just I quit on myself.
Right.
And dude, uh, I never trained so hard as for the next one because I was like, not me, man. I'm not gonna be like, it's just like I had sleepless nights because that I was like, I went from thinking I was up here to boom, right down
Mm-hmm.
here. And it doesn't matter if it's running 1 mile, if it's, strength training, it doesn't even have to be physical, but getting yourself out of your comfort zone and actually pushing yourself. Beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tony,
Mine right now is free diving.
oh, with your son.
And breath holding. Yeah. So I have a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old, and the 16-year-old is taken to free diving like a fish. And so, we want to support him in the best ways we can. And being here in Hawaii, you have some of the best free divers in the world that practice at Hona now. And so we hired Ben Zion. Shout out to Ben Zion, Hawaii freediving. And if you want to experience it and actually like feel what it feels like to hold your breath beyond what your mind thinks is possible, what your body is capable of, like that, for me, it's been one of the most terrifying and best ways to look at how I limit myself and what limitations I put on myself is through uh, holding my breath. And so as I've come up with, my son for 16 years of playing in the water and getting more and more comfortable in the water, seeing
Yeah.
that I did have the shark phobia, drowning phobia, all the crazy ass ones that are still inside me that'll flare up every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so I, got to this point and got this free diving coach, and now my son's diving 100 feet, and now it's like, oh, he's holding his breath for 3 minutes,
And
and
I'm sure people can imagine. For those that don't know, these are crazy numbers. I mean, 100 feet, 3 minutes. Uh, it's wild. We're still going to go back to the 20 years of self work that you've done. But for people that don't know, Tony is a coach. He is, life coach, business coach. We'll get into what you do in a little bit. But I think it's really cool the fact that you hired a coach for your son, thinking like, hey, if you're going to take this seriously, like, let's get you trained by people that know what they're doing and help you experience this. I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you paint a little bit of a picture of what it's like to free dive like that? I did a little bit of spearfishing, kind of off like two-step, like a little south of Kona where I know you guys were the other day. And besides that, just, almost like just like shore dives, just kind of having fun with some friends. But there's a tranquility down there. There's beauty. There's fear. I mean, you kind of have to look 360 degrees up, down. Yeah, I don't know. Can you paint a little picture of what it's like to be under the water there?
yeah, I think I can. I'd start on the top of the water. You're sitting there floating on top of the water, and in freediving, there's a line or a cable that goes down to your depth that you're going to go to. So, if you have it at 20 meters, that's about 60 feet, and so you can barely see the bot. You can barely see it a
Yeah.
lot of the times. Sometimes in Hawaii, you can get 100 feet of visibility, but you can see it's like, damn, that's a long way down there. And the idea while you're laying there is to get as calm and relaxed as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing, your mind's going, I'm going to go down and hold your breath. And it comes to me as like, you're crazy. Why would you do that? Like, those are like limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And simultaneously trusting that my training and what I do with my breath and breathing and calming my nervous.
Tony, I can't hear you right now. Your audio broke up.
Yeah. As that 5th minute comes up, it's coming. And so you take a big exhalation to get all the CO2 out of your lung. Now you've taken a really deep breath, because you've been kind of taking shallow breaths when you're really relaxed. And you take that last inhalation, big breath.
Yeah.
And you hold it, and duck dive head first and you start kicking and you're following this cable down, and you got to kick kind of hard because the buoyancy is wanting to pull you back up. And so for about 16 kicks or 35 feet, you are actually buoyant you're in buoyancy in that space. So it's trying to pull you back up. So you got to kick kind of hard. Then when you get down past that 33 to 35 feet, you become negatively buoyant. And this is where the fantasy or the inquiry to me of what this space that they call the doorway to heaven, where gravity changes and starts to pull you down where you don't have to kick anymore. And you start to glide or like fly down this cable.
That's sweet,
you know, and for me, 70 feet feels like a lot. And I've been just above 79 feet to be exact. We keep in numbers.
Yeah.
And you feel the pressure on your chest. It's like, you go from having lungs about this size to then them contracting and coming all the way into almost like a pea size, and you start to live off of the oxygen in your body, in your blood.
Dude, I appreciate
I'll pause
that.
there.
What?
You want me to keep going?
If you want, I love that. You actually, it broke up for a little bit. I hope the audio came through for the recording there, but it broke up just for a little bit in there. But dude, so my girlfriend's a scuba diver, which definitely there's a very big difference between scuba diving because you have the oxygen tank, but she talks about getting down to that negative buoyancy level when you start to feel like you're flying. But the thing that interests me the most. So I love the Wim Hof Method. And that's why I start all of my days. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I wrote a blog about this morning, Tony. Was that when I do the Wim Hof, it's a cultivation of a lot of things. So first of all, it's a breathing technique. Folks, breath work is tremendous, and what it does for your inner body, right? What it does for your heart, your cardiovascular system is really anti-inflammation. I mean, it's so cool. Breath is also, gateway to meditation. So it's and I'm viewing free diving as breath work and meditation already. And then the biggest thing I think it is I guess you can even lump this in as meditation, mindfulness, but it's overcoming those inner beliefs and that voice. So you said things that you said, why am I doing this? This is crazy, right? Or maybe it's unsafe, right? Those are limiting beliefs. And I think what people, something that I'd like people to think about is inner beliefs don't always need to be wrong, like for you to need to overcome them. Like it is a little crazy. It is a little unsafe, but you knew that when you signed up for it, right? So I learned this from an ultra runner, actually, about not negotiating with yourself in the moment. If you're going to say it's not safe or something, that's something you decide on shore. But once you jump in the water, you go for it, because that is truly where it's a limiting belief that's stopping you. Again, not saying it's not justifiable, but those are things you think of, before. For example, when I ran a 50, me running is a good way to relate things. When I run the 50-mile ultra marathons, right? I understand I am going to have pain, severe pain in my feet, my knees, my lower back. How real that pain is debatable. I kind of commit, and it's hard, right? Because you have to be the judger as in the situation. But I commit, like, all right, I'm going to run this. I will not stop unless I truly think something is broken. And I realized when I quit my first one, got an X-ray, I was mad my foot wasn't broken. I had never felt pain like that. And I realized, I think it was my body just telling me to quit because I was tired and weak. Like, my body was getting exhausted. And so kind of tying this stuff back with the breath work in Wim Hof. So the other thing that's really cool is you said you get to a point where your brain's telling you, I got to go up, but the body can continue, right? The body can go longer. And I know you're really, I know you well, so I know that you're not like, shallow with these goals, right? You're mentioning numbers, 3 minutes, 100 feet. You're not doing this out of competition, trying to be better than others or go longer. But I'd like to get your vantage point on what it's like to measure things, because you're doing, like, for example, Wim Hof, right? I don't do the Wim Hof every day, so I could hold my breath longer and longer and longer. But I do it to increase my awareness, my focus, my conditioning. And I measure it every day with the want to get that longer and longer, because
Hmm.
your body is a direct correlation of what you do. So me holding it longer and longer shows my discipline, my awareness, my focus is increasing, right?
Same.
It's a very subtle nuance, but
Yes.
what do you think about that?
Well, being a ex, or still, if I said I haven't been to AA, but I'm an addict for adrenaline and pushing and challenging and overcoming something you've done to do it better. I'm an ex addict at that. So, and so to do something from that place, that it isn't just me jumping for 100 feet the first weekend, or even like I haven't done 100 feet yet, I could push to go do it. And I'm saying if I increase 1%, of my ability and what I've been working on over time, it's going to add up. So those little increases uh, are the, for me, how to do it, what I'd call smart, so that I'm not just doing it out of ego. I'm not doing it out of forcing or pushing something to happen.
Mm, yeah.
Uh, you
Yeah,
know.
and I think it's one of those things that you can hear people say, but you just got to experience it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I mean, I even look at that with like running. If you've ever done or been around an ultra marathon, you'll know that I mean, some people are competing against others. Most people are just competing against themselves and against the course. And
Yep.
again, it's, I don't care if I can run longer or faster or a combination. I care that I can prove that I can commit to a goal and train my body and my mind. And then, you have to measure it somehow, right? It's
Hmm.
similar with money, right? P, I think everybody that's looking to provide value and service in this world, their goals should include monetary goals,
Hmm.
not because that's the end game, but that's, just a great way to measure it.
It
Um,
is definitely.
and I mean, hey, you're the expert there, so this is a good time to talk about that 20 years of work. Um,
Oh,
yeah, so do you mind sharing, what you do, kind of like how, and how you practice what you do? I mean, what you do, you're a coach in the simplest terms, but maybe a little bit about your journey to get there, and you don't need to give away your secret sauce, but kind of what, the ways that you do it.
yeah. Okay. Well, I'll start with giving away the secret sauce.
Let's do it.
All right. Transparency and vulnerability are, to me, is what it's all about.
Mm,
And so, me being transparent and vulnerable um, is what I practice on a daily basis. So, me sharing with you who I am and my upbringing is very vulnerable for me.
mhm,
And so, and being vulnerable of that, you know, um, both my parents are Zen priests, and so I grew up in a Zen temple.
mhm,
And by doing that and being in that kind of space, that there was a shaping of Tony Bonnici over his adolescence through Zen. I didn't know it consciously because my parents weren't like forcing Zen on us. I thought when my dad said, "Hey, would you be interested in ringing this bell that he created that was about 4 feet tall and outside that we would ring to open and close the day?" Uh, he says, would you do that to open the day, and you can trade off with your brother nights and mornings? And we're like, yeah, that sounds so cool.
yeah.
We thought it was cool to ring a bell that sounded like boom, resonated your whole body, Well, it was a form of meditation that he didn't
Mhm,
tell us that we were doing. So he instilled the practice in us, and the commitment to being vigilant and showing up and being authentic and vulnerable that way. So I'm going to say my practice started from, coming in with the parents and being introduced to Andrew and Diana Bonnici. And if you ever
Good
want to
for
look
you.
up some amazing people that are out there in the world sharing their work and doing their magic, it's both of them, and they're an inspiration to me. And I still look up to them and love them deeply. And they live here on this island. So that's where I'd start, of coming up with that discipline of
Mm.
Buddhism and having that gift gifted to me. And coming up then at about 7 years old, my mom saying, "Hey, you guys want to try a martial art called judo?" And I said, "Yeah, let's check it out." So we went to our first judo class, and that started a process in me, being that
Mm.
going to school, I was being really what I felt judged and trying to diagnose me with what they didn't understand, what now they call it dyslexic.
Yeah.
Uh, I found in judo, it didn't matter what I read or did math or numbers, I could physically perform and it was taught as good. So I
Gave you
was
some
really
confidence.
good. It gave me a lot of confidence. And over the 10 years, taking that to the Olympic, we went to the Junior Olympics, me and my brother, and competed at that level. So judo then shaping me as an athlete, and how to really apply myself and compete, and the steady groundedness of Zen and really coming from your body and core all in
Yeah.
itself. And that took me then in opening my first business at 19 years old, playing around with cars. I was into car building. I could use my hands, and built my first show car at 17 years old. It made magazine cover, and had a whole magazine spread by 18. And
That's
and then
awesome.
then all of a sudden I started working on these cars and started learning about business. And it was cool is I could apply the same theory of in judo of get down or get thrown and get back up, get thrown and get back up into business, man. If I go
Yeah.
into it and I try something, it doesn't work, and keep going, right? In
And there's
meditation of show. Go ahead.
there's probably it's so cool to hear you pull something from. I think wisdom is learning something, pulling out the larger lesson and applying it elsewhere. That's to me
Mm-hmm.
what basically wisdom is.
Yep.
And that's not the definition, that's Sean's definition.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm just hearing you, there's probably Zen principles there. I mean, the fact that when you get thrown down, you have the wherewithal and composure to say, oh no, that's just temporary. Now let's get back
Mm-hmm.
up and let's do it.
Yeah.
So sorry, that was just really cool, because really cool to hear kind of like how you're drawing them. As an athlete, I I was I'm here in Wisconsin right now, and I was training at this field. I saw some kids playing football, and they were training hard, man. And it's February, or it's March 2nd now. Actually, there's no football going on or coming up. I was like, what are you guys training for? And they're like, next season it's all about football. I was like, it is all about football, but there's got to be a lesson behind it. And and I was just like, at some point you will stop playing football. Maybe you go play college, maybe you go play NFL, maybe you have a long
Mm-hmm.
career in the NFL. You will still be done playing football by 35.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If there's not a
Mm-hmm.
lesson behind it, it's not worth your time. Not to say,
Yep.
dude, I still play flag football and basketball, but so sorry for the tangent, but I think
Mm-hmm.
any people just need to find their own discipline, own creative discipline, sports or arts, and dive into it and learn from that. I mean, that's one of those things that I understand, and I'm trying to realize more and more daily.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I like the taking wisdom from one aspect of your area of your life and applying it to all the others.
Mm.
And that's where then it starts to move me into when I went into the automotive industry and started a business there, and expanded that into 15 employees and 6,000 square feet, working on Ferraris and Aston Martins, all these crazy ass cars for
Yeah.
20 years of doing that. And uh, and that through that then to come out the other side and say, how can I be an entrepreneur and still have the balance of not just being driven as an entrepreneur and not paying attention to my relationships or my spiritual practice or my body. that I can actually balance the whole thing out. And through being a good entrepreneur and challenging myself athletically, by challenging myself athletically and crossing the finish line, overarches the
Yeah.
business.
Mm-hmm.
And so that started to create my methodology of, I was like, oh, okay, so if I continue to challenge myself physically, my business grows,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
don't have to like think that, oh man, I have to push at my business. I get to challenge myself and have love on my body, and it's going to grow. Well, wow, what if I did that in my relationships too? And then what if I did that in my spiritual practice? And
Yeah.
so now you have three areas that I get to challenge myself with in my methodology to grow my legacy and my business. And so that's how I love that overarching that through one area, because
Awesome.
most entrepreneurs, especially I like playing with the serial entrepreneur kind of feel to it, that they don't need more training over here. It's let's do the other work. And
Yeah.
that's the inner work that I'm saying. Like I've been doing this work physically, spiritually, and in relationship for the last 20 years consciously, and it's profound. I mean, I've been in chronic pain for over 30 years, and I'm like 6 months to say I've been 6 months pain free is weird to me, because I've been working so hard at the relationship with my body and being an athlete that I never thought I was not going to be in pain. I thought it was just a normal way of living life.
Yeah.
When I did that, my business took a different look to it. It's I'm really secure, and I'm not trying to do $1 million plus business again. I want 5 clients, 5 entrepreneurs that are dedicated, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
sticking at that. And I know my zone of genius is one-on-one with entrepreneurs that are committed,
Yeah.
and that fucking shit gets me off.
Dude. And I want to see. I know it gets you off because when we spoke at the coffee shop, what was it in the coffee shop right across from the Kona? When we
Yeah.
were sitting down there, you were just giving me all your energy and attention. You said something with me. You were talking about how again, one thing I do want to dive into because I think it's either unknown or misunderstood by many is about visualization and creating.
Hmm.
But you were telling me
Yeah.
that, after or during your own like visualizations, those are kind of meshed with your clients, right? You're seeing like, what would my life be like? This is part of your visualization practice. What would my life be like if, one of my clients is doing XYZ, right? And you're bringing that energy into the world. And you only you love doing that, but you only have so much energy and time, like
Hmm.
you need to be focused on people. So that's so cool. I mean, you just you clearly live it yourself.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, man. If you don't mind, let's hop into a little bit of that creation process.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
popularized by The Secret, right? People talk about manifestation.
Yeah.
And I think everyone that hears about it is at least somewhat intrigued. Some people might not believe in it, which fair. It's not tangible, and it's not easily traced from A to B. It might not be tangible always. People might just deny it because it's a lot of work.
Hmm.
But I'd love to hear kind of like, I don't know, maybe how I know you had some great teachers in this, and like a little bit about your practice.
Okay. If we start with would be practice. Always practice is good.
Yeah.
That for me, when I get up in the morning and splash water on my face and then sit and meditate. And meditation is different than visualization. Meditation is where I'm following my breath and paying attention to my breath in going into my diaphragmatic breathing.
Hmm.
So I do 20 minutes of that, and then consciously I come and I say, okay, now I'm going to move into visualization. Is now I start seeing my outcome of my, if it's 365 days from today, what my world's going to look like uh, as it has already become true.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I take that slow, because to create an image in your mind of it's already come true.
Hmm.
And coming from that place of that, of, for me right now, using the visual, can I just put it on myself directly because it's easier
Yeah,
right now?
for sure, man.
Okay. Yeah. Vulnerable, transparent. I love it,
Yeah.
and so it just put it on myself.
And you say
Right
it so
now,
confidently. I don't know if people even realize how vulnerable it is, because you're
oh,
this.
yeah, there's a lot of energy in my body right now to say, okay, I visualize every morning about 5 clients. I visualize what my life is going to be like to be supporting and holding that. And like right now, I have 3 clients, and so 2 of them I had to finish up. Great. I keep visualizing about the 5 clients. I keep going, man, I'm that guy that supports 5 entrepreneurs to do legacy work, to be an integrated leader, to really be making an impact in their community.
Mm-hmm.
And when I feel that and hold that, I mean, I can guarantee this. You can feel a difference in my energy as I start to embody those 5 energies of what I see as a visualization. And so I get chicken skin. I get excited. I can feel energy in my body. Look, I'm making fists right now. I'm like, yeah, rah, right? And so when I feel that, when I do that, I take a deep breath into that feeling in my body. And that's what watch The Secret. It'll talk about exactly what I'm talking about in a different verbiage.
Yeah.
So feeling it is like one of the main keys. And then what if I feel the action steps are taken, it may feel too big, it may feel too intimidating, is the small infinitesimal step that you can take today to move that forward and come from that place of that man that is seeing 5 clients and impacting the world globally that way, you
Mm.
know seeing my book that's coming out within a month, that I can really see it impacting more and more entrepreneurs
Hey, tell
and
me where to
bringing
get a
that
copy.
online. Yeah, it'll be on Amazon, on Kindle, all the
Oh yeah.
things. So um, I'll definitely be hitting you up with that information when I get that, as soon as I get that. But um, I can
Well,
see that and I can feel it in my bones and in my balls, man. I'm sorry, but it's true. It's like I get tingly and nervous. One of my clients will say nerve sided, nervous and excited, nerve sided all at the same time.
dude.
And let's play in that zone.
Yeah. And so I have 2 main questions of many. One is, it's fun. I just probably, scratch the surface of what you've done, but I'm looking at you and I don't need to ask you if you have fun doing it. I know, I'm looking at you. You
Mm-hmm.
have fun doing it. It's a rush, man. You're probably addicted to that feeling, and it's awesome. And then as you get more confident in, because you start to see that you create things in this world,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then it just becomes a game, right?
Oh,
Um,
it's awesome.
yeah. But so this is something I really want to dive into, the concept of feeling versus thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked about The Secret. Bob Proctor is quoted in The Secret. I think some of Bob Proctor's recent work since The Secret is great on manifestation. Actually, for Big Sean, he's a rapper. For some, little more mainstream guy that's doing it, Big Sean, Kanye West. I mean, they have some lyrics that some of my friends know that I cite and quote. Jay Shetty, he's a podcaster. People talk about things, right? Here's the one from Big Sean that I love. He wrote a song on one of his first albums called "I Do It." It's one of his first albums, and it's talking about that he's waited his whole life to be the man of the hour, and he starts talking about being a millionaire and all these things. He says, I've waited my whole life to be the man of the hour. It's like the way he's saying it, you're like, oh, good for you. You're now the man of the hour. You're a millionaire. When he wrote that, he talked about
Mm-hmm.
specific amounts of money. None of that was true. He brought
Mm-hmm.
it to
That's
reality.
it. Yes.
Um, and then Kanye West does a couple on some of his early albums. But so there's all this. I talked about what's his name? Dr. Joe Dispenza in the beginning. He talks
Mm-hmm.
about this visualization too. Joe Dispenza has a great quote that he says, you need to feel better than you think. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, people can think it. So I know, I have people close to me. I say like, hey, like, I need you to like really be calm in this situation. And there's a response. I'm calm. I'm calm. Okay.
Mhm.
That's not, I'm glad you think you're calm. That's not calm. Right. You
Mhm.
know, you can see and sense if somebody's, you know, tranquil, relaxed. Right.
Mhm.
So you mentioned feeling, why do you know why, or like, do you agree that like feeling over thinking is like, that's kind of like where the magic happens, huh?
Yeah, yeah, because the brain can't tell the difference. Is what I mean. Like I think Joe Dispenza talks about that. Is like the brain doesn't know when it's feeling the feeling; it thinks it's already done it.
Hmm.
So since it doesn't know the difference, if you feel it, it's interpreting it as it's already done.
Yeah. And then, you know, there's a lot of science behind it, right? But then
Oh
you
my
talk,
gosh, yeah, you can track that guy. He breaks it all down scientifically
yeah,
like that, right?
that,
And so right when that happens, then as soon as that happens, then the brain's going to come back on and trying to dismiss the experience. It's going to want to say, oh, that can't happen. And see, now the limiting beliefs, and now it's like, oh, are you going to listen to your brain and like dismiss it and put it on the shelf and never visualize it again, which happens to about 80 to 90% of the people that I've that I coach. They'll put it on the shelf the first even couple months. They won't even write it out. It's like I'll gift some sessions, and I'm like, send me your visualization in detail, and I'll never see it because the brain doesn't
yeah,
want that to happen. And so
yeah,
that's where the support comes in, of having a coach that works with the relationship with the brain and the body, and that that the brain's going to say its limiting beliefs, and doing that deep inner work that we've been
hmm,
talking about, it's going to bring up all that work. And like to be able to have support and somebody to go through that with is I mean, it's priceless.
yeah, yeah. You know, and where everyone's at a different stage in, I don't, life. Let's call it this. That's what we're talking about. Life. You know, self development, their own journey. I think everyone needs a mixture of being their own coach. I think everyone needs a mixture of having a formal coach. I think everyone
Hmm.
needs a mixture of having coaches that, you know, friends that are coaches, like in some
Hmm.
ways, you know, accountability, friends, partners, whatever. You know, and no, I don't want to like pressure anyone to hop into coaching, but that combination, I mean, whether it's, you know, now or future, like I'm all about it. So I really appreciate you kind of sharing that. And I looked up the line from Kanye West because the song is "I Wonder" on one of his on albums called Graduation. It's like super popular. And he said, do you even remember what the issue is? You're just trying to find out where the tissue is. And then he says, you can still be who you wish you is. It just ain't happened yet, but that's what intuition is. Right. And that is exactly what you're talking about. You can be who you are. It just hasn't
Hmm.
happened yet. Right. And
Yes.
the reason I love it is Kanye West. I heard a story about him. He might not be the most popular. He's an interesting mind and he has great music. So take him for what he is. Right. But he, you know, he was like making beats for Jay-Z and everything, and he would just tell people that he was a rapper, but he was making beats for people. He wasn't rapping. And in these meetings where once he got like around Jay-Z and all these other producers and big names, in the middle of meetings when people were talking, he would just hop up on the table, like where people are wearing suits at a table, and just start rapping. And people would be like, what are you doing? And he would just say, I'm a rapper. Like, and it was so funny because he wasn't yet, right? So
Right.
sorry for that little tangent, but no, that
No, but
was,
you're anchoring stories that are identifying exactly what we're talking about, right? It's and to have, I'd be direct in it, of like, if you don't have a coach, get your ass a coach. Like that, I get that direct because I know the value of coaching. I don't care who it is, but to have somebody that you're meeting with every week to say, I am creating my world this way. Even if it's a small thing of like, I'll give an example of being in an abusive relationship. and you're tolerating the abusive relationship, get some support to get out of the abusive relationship or make some changes. It could be a counselor, it could be a coach, but it's
Yeah,
like that kind of support is priceless again. And if you say, hey, I want to be happy, man, go talk to somebody. And it
for
does get
sure.
difficult, and having somebody there. I tell my clients, I don't ever want you stuck. Anytime something happens, I want to know about it. That's one of the things. It's like, I'm shoulder to shoulder with you, and we're going to make this happen. And that's, I visualize their visualizations. I know, Greg Horn and Prajna are going to have all the indigenous forests that are around the world under like signed, where they cannot be touched or protected. That's what it is.
Mhm.
Renee Tillotson doing the Still and Moving Center globally. That went global last year.
That's so
And
cool.
so I'm on that visualization and working with their goals and visions, because I know the power of it, and I don't have their resistances that they do.
Yeah.
And so then
Did
we come on the phone together and just go boom, and it's like magic happens regularly.
I'll never forget, the first time we talked about coaching, you said that, you said you don't understand the energy that you get when someone loves you and holds you accountable as much as you are yourself and brings that
Mhm.
energy. That really stuck with me because, as an entrepreneur, right, I got a team of people, and there's one thing that every entrepreneur agree on, and it's that no one's gonna be as dedicated to your work as you, right? And
Mhm.
if you have a coach who is, even they don't need to be doing the work, they just need to be putting the energy out there, man.
Oh my
That's
God, yes.
that's so cool. And what I love about what I love about just like some of the things that you do, you talk a lot about legacy work. For me, this podcast is a little bit of the start of like the legacy work I'm trying to leave.
Mm.
For me, it's go through as many experiences as possible. And one of the top three experiences I identify is having intentional conversations with people I respect. So
Nice.
that means you're on the list of people I respect, man. and
Nice. Thank you.
and documenting them, right? But
Hmm.
so what I try to do is go through as many experiences as I can to gather wisdom and then share it. And I don't know if I want to share it one-on-one with the masses, probably a mixture of both, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But I want to experience it first, live it, and then share it. So like, it's kind of along the journey. That's what I like. Everything you're doing is, you always bring legacy work into it, which is just,
Hmm.
so fun. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's pretty unique, man.
Oh, well, you just say, you drop any seed of legacy hints to me, and I'm like, what'd you say? I heard you
Yeah.
say that this podcast has a sense of legacy to it. You want to play with
Yeah.
it? You want to dive into it? We could see what that feels like, right?
Hey, man, that's what it's about. It's interesting. You also, you were one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast. The goal of my podcast, I hope it's the goal. Actually, I don't hope it's the goal of others' podcasts. I'll just tell you the goal of mine is just like I said, to schedule intentional conversations with people I respect and document them for myself and for others. That's why there
Okay.
was no agenda, right? I showed up actually with an empty notebook here and a pencil to take notes on what you're saying, even though it is documenting. It's kind of a
Hmm.
habit, right?
Yeah, I got mine
writing
here too.
about what you're doing, right? And yeah, man. So that's super cool. I think we should be wrapping up here, and I
Okay,
want to,
sounds good.
yeah, and I want to just bring it back to the title of the podcast. The title of the podcast is Happiness, the Ultimate Discipline. And I'll tell you, there's a Dan Millman book that Dan Millman's most popular book. I got it sitting out right here. And it's funny because when I like a book, this is what my books look like, beat to shit with
Nice.
literally just notes falling out all over the place in it. Um,
Beautiful.
and most of the pages are
Peaceful
written,
warrior.
yeah, peaceful warrior. So they talk about something, this is the name is kind of taken from a story Socrates mentioned there about that basically everything's not permanent, everything changes, right? Everything has humor, paradox, and change to it. So you can choose to have every situation be positive. So happiness is just a discipline, man. and it's probably the most important one. Open-ended. Just want to hear your thoughts on that. Is it a corny name? Should I be changing it? Does that resonate with you?
I like it, definitely. It's I mean, like the secret to, happiness, secret to life. So I think it's a great one,
Yeah, and I was kidding a little bit about changing it. To me it resonates, and it's exactly what I'm trying to get across. But it's you're one of those people that live it, and I learn from it. That's why I feel like we had a podcast last week when we just talked, man. I think at the end we were like, we should have just recorded that.
Yep, definitely.
You did say something. You were like, oh, there was my podcast one-liner. I forget what it was.
All good.
It'll either come back or it won't.
Hey, I got a question before we wrap up.
Please.
Because you did drop hint that so the podcast is Happiness, right? That's the name of it.
Happiness, semicolon, the ultimate discipline is how I guess it'll be written out.
Okay, cool. Happiness, the ultimate discipline.
Yeah.
And just like, see how you when I said that, you can feel something in your body.
Yeah, for sure. At least right? I can.
Yeah, no, I caught it. You actually had a visceral response to when I said it.
Yeah, man.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, now here we go.
Oh, here's Tony with the coaching hat on.
What is it going to be like to have that 1,000 episodes documented? Like that kind of impact where it's a library for people to really dive in to happiness and what's it going to take for that ultimate discipline.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. So my coaching is, I'd love to see you write up your vision of the podcast in all its glory, completed a certain number. And what's that going to feel like for you?
Going right on my journal, right up vision of, let's call it, future state podcast. Well, I'll tell you, as we'll be saying, hey, here's Tony back for episode number 14 that he's been on.
Can you cross out future state vision and just the future part? So what does it say now?
Write up vision of podcast at episode 1000.
Yeah. And that's just a number I made up. So you could do any number you want.
I understand. But what you said about future is beautiful because
it's present.
Yeah, it's present, right? We have it. Yeah, we have it right now, right? Now that
Send it to me, brother. Send it to me.
Yeah, I will. I will too.
I know,
Tony, man, this was a pleasure, dude. I appreciate it. I hope same to you. Send love to Amber and the family. And
I will.
If you ever get back to the mainland or either get to the island, I'll have to see you.
Oh, we will. Our paths will cross again.
Yes, sir. Mahalo, man.
All right. Aloha.